In this video, we're going to go over how dRofus integrates with Collaboration for Revit from Autodesk. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to launch Revit, and I'm going to show you that under the Collaboration tab at the top, you can see that we have some models that are actually hosted on A360 Cloud. So under my project, you can see that I have a series of files here. So the file I'm going to open is the clinic architecture model that's on the actual A360 cloud server. First, you do this by going to Open, going to A360, and then selecting the file that you want to work from. So in this case, I have my architecture file. I'm going to go ahead and open it. So here I have the file. You'll notice that I actually am logged in, works the exact same way from a collaboration standpoint. I synchronize with Central just like before, but the difference is it's actually hosting on the A360 server, which is actually on Amazon Web Services, in case you're curious about the location. What you'll also notice is that in my dRofus project, let me go ahead and log into this dRofus database. You can see that when I go into rooms, I have 246 rooms that are currently in this particular model that are connected to dRofus. You'll also notice that when I look at the linked files, that these linked models are actually hosted on the cloud services as well. If I go to manage links, we'll see that the actual path that they're pointing to is on the same location. So one of the things you're going to want to make sure is that your models that you are using as linked models are also hosted on the same location. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up one of those mechanical files. There are times where I might want to be working with an architecture model linking to rooms, but when we're working with MEP models, we want to be working with spaces. So one of the features within dRofus is the ability to copy rooms from linked models and have those show up as spaces within my MEP file. So in this case, you can see that if I drill into here, if I wanted to synchronize my spaces, I go up and hit synchronize. If I change this to spaces, right now I have 0 spaces that are actually linked to dRofus, even though I have spaces within my model. So if you have gone ahead and actually started to create spaces within your modeling environment and they're not linked to dRofus, there's a way of actually linking those rooms or spaces to the dRofus database. But what we're going to do is we're going to show the process of how you would copy rooms from the linked model and replace these spaces so that the same rooms in the architecture model are linked to the spaces from my mechanical model. And I do that by going to the linked model room spaces tool within the dRofus plugin. There you'll see the linked files and the path that they're associated to, and that the fact that there are 2 different configurations. The first one is how the rooms are being configured. The second one is how the spaces are being configured. So if I select the space configuration, we can see that in this case, I'm actually going to be using the same, if I make this a little bit wider here, you'll see that this is going to be using the room function number as my unique key within the space configuration. So at this point, I just click OK because I have the linked model that I want to associate to checked. This is then going to look to dRofus to see what rooms in my linked file are actually tied to the dRofus database, and then start to replicate those within my mechanical file. Depending on the number of spaces that you might have and the number of levels you might have, this might take some time. So this is where we found that there are 235 spaces in this model that don't exist in the linked file, which means that I have spaces inside of my mechanical file that do not associate to the rooms that I have in my architecture model. So I'm going to delete those superfluous spaces. And instead, what the database has now done is now I have 256 new spaces that have been added to my database. 11 of them were skipped because of unique attributes not being consistent. So this is where we might go into and try to find out, do we have some rooms that might have the same information, being some redundant information, and all those superfluous spaces that I had before have actually been deleted. So now if I look at one of these spaces within my model, we'll see that the name actually came from my architectural room name. The number came from the architecture room number, and I can see now it has a function number associated to it. So now as a mechanical engineer, I can just simply synchronize my spaces, and all 246 of my spaces are going to synchronize with the rooms in the architecture model. This makes it really easy, so if the architects decide to change the room names in the database or they change room numbers, all I have to do is just synchronize to get the updates.